Hello, everybody. It is about 7:45 Eastern Standard Time here in East Tennessee. It is June 23rd. So we got to, we all know the big news of the day, of the weekend, so we'll get to that in a little bit. But I wanted to start out some little stuff that's been going on. The first thing I want to do is that there was a very interesting article because we know because of the open border, the Biden administration, and massive amounts of trafficking, right? So here you go, Shadow of Ezra. U.S. Marshals have carried out the largest single child rescue operation in American history. Over the course of just 2 weeks, more than 60 children between the ages of 9 and 17 were safely recovered from the hands of child traffickers. The massive effort, coordinated with 20 different agencies, also led to the arrest of multiple suspects involved in the trafficking network. And one of the interesting things too about these these raids and these kind of operations that have been going on is you wonder how much did they know, and they just neglected to do what was necessary, right? Because maybe Border Patrol was acting as babysitters at the border, processing people, and the Biden administration, because this is not the first big ring that they've broken up since Trump has taken office. So it makes you wonder that whether they're ignoring it, maybe they wanted this to continue, who knows? So I thought that was good news, and it shows you where we're going on that front. So it's a big issue. So I just think it's important to share with you some good news out on the front. All right, next thing we'll do is a little economic news here. Well, would you look at that? Guess who is eating all those tariff costs? Hint, it's not U.S. consumers. So this is personal cars, okay, and it's price of the cars, okay. This is related to Japanese imports. So basically, the price of Japanese imports is dropping down, and Japanese imports to other countries is going up. See, one of the fears was, and we've stated this here on this channel, that it is not a dollar for dollar equivalent to tariff. You don't just go 10% on and then boom, the price goes up 10%. No, there are other factors that go into the effect of tariffs, okay? In this particular case, American domestic consumers were paying more than a lot of other people buying that same product from other nations. So what the companies do, especially multinationals, is they change things. They also might change suppliers for certain parts, make it closer. There's never a dollar for dollar offset. Okay, and this is an example where the tariffs, and it also benefits the consumer, just like consumer drugs, right? Okay, why is it that we're paying more, even though it's made by American pharmaceutical companies, than the majority of other nations? So you fix that, you put the burden off of the U.S. consumer and more onto other companies. Well, it's a similar thing that's going on with these tariffs. And again, every product is different because the supply chains are different, because the same product might not have the same demands in different parts of the world, etc. Right? These Japanese cars might not be popular somewhere else, and another car might be popular. But each company and each corporation is going to make those adjustments to offset and minimize that. And if that means raising the price on some else where they think they have wiggle room, they'll do it. So there's never a dollar for dollar equivalent when it comes to the tariffs. So I wanted to share that with you as well. All right, so now this is the big, beautiful bill. All right, breaking. Harry Reid appointee and Senate Parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough is striking down massive portions of Trump's big, beautiful bill, requiring them to obtain 60 votes in the Senate instead of 51. All right, so you got to understand something if you don't know this. Under Senate rules, to do budget reconciliation to get that 50 votes, certain parameters have to stay the same. Okay, and it's usually related to budgetary items. Certain things have to be budget neutral. That has to fall within certain CBO estimates. There are certain things that can do. That's why it's like a reconcile. Like it's a way to get something through, but it has to have parameters. Okay. Now, what I find very interesting here is that while in the past a lot of these things that the parliamentarian has ruled on has been related to that monetary things, here it's not the case. Defunding sanctuary cities. I don't understand what it has to do with reconciliation whatsoever. Okay. If anything, it would be a net positive to the budget, right? Because less money is going to those cities. Reining in activist judges. maybe it's not in there, but funding, I don't know the specifics on that one. Defunding the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, a huge target of Doge. Again, rolling back the EV mandate. What is the EV mandate? You, I mean, how is that a budgetary effect? It is for personal, but not for the federal government. So this looks like a huge overstep of power, being out of the realm of how it affects that, right? The monetary ones I can kind of get a little bit and so forth, okay? But again, even these monetary ones is you're subtracting. It's a net positive for the deficit, not an increase. And that's historically what you need to happen, particularly over a period of time, to use reconciliation. And again, Republicans and Thune won't do anything about it because this person's been here since Reed. So why? Okay? So, there we go. And then he adds it, ridiculous, she needs to be fired. She's applying the Byrd rule to all of this, which decides what can fall under reconciliation. All right. So in conclusion, she's clearly using a broader power than historically noted for these budget reconciliations. So I think fire. But makes you wonder what Republican leadership in the Senate is really all about anyway. So, all right, moving on. A little more economic news, and this is more related into what we'll go into last. So apparently the last 10 days were all performative. Oil now below where it was when Israel launched this entire theater. And you can see the drop of oil prices. I believe it was 7% was down after all of that kind of happened. So now let's discuss. So if you've watched any of my other videos, you know I was opposed because of the unknowns and everything that was going on for this attack. But there are other issues. So I'm noticing like a trend on social media, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, okay? People saying, see, I told you so. And they're doing that in reference to the non-strike. Now, it's funny, I was actually on the phone with somebody yesterday, and I said, I bet you, my gut's telling me Iran's going to do a save face like they did after Soleimani. And that seems to be what they did here, okay? So let's back up to those strikes. What we know. I have yet to see evidence that what was underneath was destroyed. Okay, and I've seen from multiple international organizations, different stuff, minor damage to the centrifuges. I've heard from several organizations, and several media organizations that the enrichment was removed, whatever. So if you're Iran, and let's say, let's just use a number, 30, 40% was destroyed. Like, we can rebuild this, we save some of the enrichment. I don't want to war with the United States, so that's it. We'll do a save face strike. We good? We're good. We'll go back to talking. All right. So you have that. Then you also have what makes me nervous is you still got senators and going on talking about regime change. And if you watch Trump's truths today and his statements and the statements from Rubio Hexeth, they want this to be a one-off. They do not want regime change and a war. That is my gut is telling me. Okay. So that's it. Now, I want to show you, too, that just because we're not going after this retaliation seems to be up the escalation ladder, Israel and Iran are. Okay? Israel's still hammering the crap out of Tehran today. This is a picture of a power plant in Israel getting hit. All right? This was another I believe it was another power plant, two separate power plants. So I just wanted to show you the picture. Those were today. Matter of fact, this was going on while the whole strike was going on at the, what do you call it? Air base in Qatar. So, but we know when you're saving fate, when you're given a heads up. And they've done that before. They did that with Soleimani, but they also did it in the strikes against Israel after Israel had attacked their embassy in Damascus, as well as their embassy, in Tehran during the inauguration. Okay, they gave heads up to people. So, if they wanted to hit a few targets, they did that. So Israel and Iran are still going to go at it. Now, from what I understand from multiple sources, the air defenses are kind of dwindling on both sides. Okay, so. And how many good missiles does Iran left? How much crappy drones do they have left? And older ballistic missiles? What does Israel have? I mean, we're still supplying them. So I don't think this is over. And I still don't trust where this is going. I believe something happened where Trump said, and I'm not thrilled at all with this, but Trump said, hey, let's just do this. We'll make the Israelis happy. They'll get off my back. It'll make certain people in this happy. I also heard rumors that senators were holding up the BBB bill unless he did this. And I would not be surprised. So, he's pressured to do this. Iran prepared for it and knew that this was coming historically. Hence, that's why they stuck it in the mountain, right? So we'll see where that goes. But there are other issues too that just there are people, not a lot of people talking about. Okay, the United States took unilateral action again against a country that is a signatory to non-proliferation, but is not in violation. So the ramifications of that is countries are like, oh, even if I follow the treaty, I could have the crap bombed out of me by the United States for whatever reason. That's not a good message. That's the problem. We have the Rio reset coming around the corner. What is that? It's about getting countries so they can't be sanctioned off of this U.S.-backed, U.S.-run transfer systems. Okay? The whole world came out against this. Now people are saying behind the scenes they're for it. I believe there's a possibility, particularly among some of the Sunni Arab countries along the Gulf. But the majority of the world is not. And it's because of the unilateral actions. Now, they said, we know Gabbard said no. We know the assessment that came out at the end of the year last year said no. And the IEE said no to them enriching. But they had intelligence. Why couldn't they show us the intelligence? That's what I want to know. In the run-up to Iraq, Powell was down at the UN and we were getting videos and it was all wrong anyway, but at least they showed us something. Here, they didn't. We're just taking somebody's word somewhere. And that's the problem. It is the unilateral action. Now, a lot of people on Twitter are getting like, oh, you favor whatever. It's either like, if you don't take the attack, then like either you're anti-Israeli or anti-Jewish, or you're, you want, you're pro. No. If I don't believe that they're enriching weaponry, if I don't believe they're a threat to the United States, why would I want to put up at risk America's credibility even more in the international community going forward? Remember, Iran, Saudi Arabia, they historically hate each other, but they're getting closer together. They're both in BRICS now. So I don't want, to do that. Then there's always the escalation. Say if a missile accidentally goes awry. Like, there are a lot of things to have happen. My gut tells me, and again, we can't be sure, and I don't buy what our government says. Maybe they do, and they're being told it, maybe by Mossad or other Israeli intelligence, have information. Show us. Are they going to give up methods? Is that what we hear? Show us a picture. Show us something. Or at least tell us. I haven't heard that yet. It's the same talking points. So we really don't know the damage. We don't know really what's going from here, although it looks like Iran does not want to be escalatory, which is good. So Israel and Iran are still shooting missiles at each other, and our credibility is off. And did it work? Did they save enough where they could, if they wanted to enrich, fine. If we didn't destroy enough, and it only set them back a couple months, and now they're like, well, we just had the crap bombed of us. Now we need a nuclear weapon. And they go, we'll pull out of the nuclear and we'll go for it. Now we'll go for it. So you don't know that. And I don't know how they would know inside those tunnels. Okay? So, because I've seen reports from all over, all different things. So, I don't know. Okay? But again, I like the de-escalatory. The other thing that I want to get into is that when you understand all of the things, and this is what most Americans don't understand, especially in conservative ink, is our credibility. We are the prime reserve currency, and countries use the dollar for international transactions. We don't like something unilaterally. We sanction a country. Countries, like 40 countries are sanctioned right now. They don't like that because they feel threatened by that. I have to trade in the dollar, but if I do something they don't like, they're going to do this. Or they're going to bomb me now. Okay? Because technically, it's an international treaty. That's why the IAEA inspectors were going into that country, because to prove that they were in the agreeing up to that. What's supposed to happen is you go to the United Nations. Now, if China and Russia just want to vote no just to piss off the United States and they really are in violation, then you can justify, or at least justify, taking unilateral action. saying, we know they're in violation. Here's the evidence. And we're being blocked in the Security Council, so we'll take unilateral. And I have no problem in that instance. Okay, because then countries go, okay, well, they believe it, maybe I believe it, but, China and Russia and U.S. are just playing games with each other, that kind of a thing. Okay, so you have to understand there are other ramifications. And, then there were people saying like, oh, well, Trump tricked them because he really was doing this while negotiating. Well, then no one's going to trust the United States on any negotiation going forward. Do you understand these things? This is the games that they want out. And the other thing that makes it, if this is really pressured by Israel, why does a country of 9 million people have so much influence over the United States? That's a problem. Okay? That's a problem. So, and you got to remember, Israel attacked Iran first. This is not like we're coming to the aid of Israel because Jordan, Syria, Iraq, Iran, the whole Arab world came in, invaded them, and we had to come to the aid. That's not what this is. All right, I wanted to see the evidence. The fact that you didn't show it, that tells me it's probably not there. And there's more behind the scenes going on. But my gut also tells me Trump does not want to escalate past this. Okay, it's like, here, I'm done, you happy now, and doesn't want to go down that regime change route. Okay, or anything further. And it looks like Iran's going down that route as well, which is good. But there's still going to be more there. There's still going to be conflict. We still got Gaza. We still got groups all over. So, right, the Syrian church that was blown up yesterday, 25 people dead, horrible ISIS. Remember, it was the United States government that destabilized that region that led to Jelani taking over Syria. And now you have ISIS attacks again in Syria. Not to mention the poor people in the Northwest, like the Alawites. So I just wanted to give my commentary. Now, the last piece on the political front is Mr. Massie. Trump's going after him hard over this, and I don't think he should. First of all, I think he's going to be reelected. I don't care who you put up against him. 2, he always votes no is one of the components. Well, yeah, because we're spending too much. Whatever. He voted against the CARES Act, and Trump went crazy about that. Okay, but he was right. He was right about the deficits, and he's right about that the federal government took unilateral action, okay, while using international law. So you're either going to use international law or you're going to say the hell with it. You're saying, well, they're in violation, but they're not. You can't prove it. So you take unilateral action. He's just saying president should come to Congress before unilateral action. I think that's not a problem. There's no immediate threat. The president's power if there's direct immediate threat to the United States. We know that. That's not what this is. All right? And remember, we're a nation of 2 parties. Not everybody in the Republican Party or the Trump coalition is going to agree on everything. So we got to stop going on X and going, told you so. See, that was... all the people were afraid, because there were people who were afraid of war escalation. That was one of my fears, but not the prime reason, because I didn't think there'd be war escalation. I thought they would hit more of our bases, or at least the groups would, like in Iraq and Syria, because they're so sparsely defended. That didn't even happen. But there, like I said, there are other ramifications. So you got to understand, because they're trying to fracture MAGA world here. Clearly obvious. All right? And when I gather, even the ones that support the strikes, they still don't want a boot on the ground, and they don't want regime change. They don't want out of that business. They're like, this is it, okay? And if that's the compromise, we go forward and things move here, that's great. But it can't happen again anymore. This is it, especially on the behest of don't knowing all the details. So that's it. So we have to be... before we go after Massie, we should be going after Lawler of New York and Lota and all these other guys, not Massie, the actual person who has principles and who has been consistent the majority of his career and has had the same arguments and is trying to be a constitutionalist. So, he should come to Congress because he's not taking immediate threat. Not even against the United States. All right? The threat that they're saying is perceived of him getting nuclear weapons is they're going to nuke Israel. And no evidence. So I think Massey's right. Let me see the intelligence. And they were on vacation. The whole works. So that's my position going forward. Hopefully it stays here for an American involvement. Iran and Israel sizzles out, as I'm hoping for. It doesn't spread. We save face, focus on the things we need to focus on, the deportations, the economy, reindustrialization, and get this train back on track and shut these neocon war people off. It's like they're upset that Iran didn't retaliate hard today. It's unbelievable, but at least it's safer for the world. And I hope there's a lot more backdoor communications. Sounds like there is a little bit, particularly with like Russia and China about these things. So remember, you have the spy ships, the planes. So we don't need any accidents or anything like that. So anyway, that's really what I wanted to focus on, was what happened over the weekend, my thoughts, what should have happened, what we should also be concerned about going forward, and how it affects MAGA world and our agenda. Let's get this BBB done, do what we have to do, okay, and hold the coalition together going forward, and don't make this mistake again. That's my position. So I'll be keeping an eye on that. If you don't know, there were massive strikes in Ukraine. Again, in Kiev last night. Russia's continuing to put pressure all along the front. I heard as many as 860,000 troops are now in there. So that's all. I also heard that just about all the territories in Donetsk prior to Zelensky's counteroffensive in 2023 had been recaptured by Russia. That's almost all of Donetsk, a couple more cities. So I'll be following that. Any more economic and tariff news, updates on the BBB, which Trump wants done by July 4th, and any other things on the foreign front here as well. So you can follow me on my X at Patriot Planner 1 and my Getter at Patriot Planner. And if you like this video, please follow, like, and share. All right. Thank you very much. And until the next video later in the week. Talk to you later. Bye.